Welcome back to our YouTube channel. My name is Precious Lucky, and if you're watching this, you're watching our third episode. I'm continuing sharing the journey of caregiving with my sister. So welcome, and I'm happy to have you here. You know, if you have um, if you have noticed on my opening segment, it's written the caregiver's voice. And the reason behind that, I've realized that the caregiver's voice is not often heard. We sort of assume that a caregiver is supposed to move without feeling exhausted, without feeling burnt out. She's expected to just keep on going as if she is this zombie that is supposed to be functional 24/7, which is not the case. So this is my platform and I'm extending it to you so we can share our realities, our challenges, our the heart behind the caregiving journey. Watching my mother navigate the journey of caregiving with my sister, now that I'm older, made me realize that she didn't share much with us and she kept on moving, she kept on showing up because she made a choice to show up for her child, because obviously every parent will do that for their child, right? Regardless of what is happening. That's what I believe. So she made that choice, and making a choice doesn't necessarily mean the choice is easy. It comes with its own challenges. Watching my mother navigate her caregiving journey with her first child must have been an emotional roller coaster, I must say. But one of the things that she didn't do, she never opened up about her real emotions when it comes to the caregiving journey with Nokono. And up to today, I still have no idea at which point did Umama notice, or did Umama come to that realization that my child is living with disability. Was it after birth or when? We don't know, because that information was held like this. She was so sensitive with that information, which I don't blame her, because there are probably other things that she didn't deal with. I mean, she had a child with Inokolo's father. They were young, but young as they were, one of them had to make a choice. And to show up for this child, and then she made that choice. And making a choice does not mean the choice is easy. It just means that you are willing to live with the side of the coin that you have chosen, and that's exactly what Umama did. And she had us also, so now having us was also challenging for her, because she couldn't really provide for us fully, because she had this child living with a disability, and Nokolo need a full-time caregiver. So I took care of Nokolo from a very young age, and what you see today is something that I've been doing. It's not something that I've just started after Mama passed away. I've been doing it for years, what, primary school, not high school, since primary school, Mosihlala is 7 Fountain. So my mother, because my mom and my dad divorced at some point, and Mama moved us to stay with her family in the farms in 7 Fountain. We stayed there. A lot of changes for our young minds, but nevertheless, who were you to complain as a child? Because the platform was never given anyway, and what were we going to complain about? So we moved to 7 Fountain with my mother's family. So we stayed there. Obviously, the families, there will always be dynamics, right? Imagine a house full of women, and all these women have children of their own. So there will be a lot of dynamics in that household. So, but we stayed. My grandparents were lovely people, and then they took good care of us when our fathers couldn't take care of us. But our grandparents did an amazing job, instilled discipline. They really did an amazing job, and may they rest in peace. So we stayed with my mom's family because Umama cannot fully provide for us during holidays. I used to work, I'm in primary school. I used to work in the farms so that I can help Mama with contribution. contributing towards buying groceries, right? Because she has so many kids, and you have so many kids, you should be contributing towards buying certain things or towards our needs. So we'll go to the farms while other kids, when schools are closed, work for pocket money. I was working to make sure that my family is taken care of. I'm a child. I am a baby. I am just a baby in need of care, in need of softness. But because the situation didn't allow that, I was the one who had to grow up as soon as possible so I can help my mother. And that's a mentality that I possessed throughout. Even in my early adulthood, I could see myself making decisions to help, to assist, to do this and to do that for the family. So I would go work in the farms during school holidays. When it's school holidays, obviously the farms, they get away with that child labor like all the time. So you can say, but child labor, no, not in the farms. It happens. I'm not sure if it still happens even in this day and age. So we used to work. It was normal. There was nothing out of the ordinary that time. So it was normal working the farm. And then uh, there came a point when Umama got a job in Lalibela, and she had to stay there for a week because it was a bit of a distance. So Umama would leave on what? On Monday morning and come back on Friday. So I have school. Remember, I have school throughout the week. Nokolo is mine. I'm just a baby as well. Throughout the week, Nokolo is mine. So I would wake up around 5 a.m. every single day. Make sure that there is fire. And my grandfather, oh my word, he would wake me up or he would wake up with me and help out, boil water. I would have to wake up so early, make sure Nokolo is back, and then make sure there's food because my siblings, everyone, and you didn't do things for your siblings only, you had to do things for the entire household in Rini. So I would do that, and then off I go to school. And going to school means you are walking quite a distance to go to school, quite a distance. Whether it's raining, whether it's sunny, you walk quite a distance. And then I remember some days I would be late because I was preparing unokolo, I was cooking so that you can have food during the day. And I would get to school and they're beating the latecomers. And I would just give them my hand as well because I'm in the line as well. I'm late because life will serve you consequences without understanding your struggles. It will, without understanding the challenges that you had to navigate in order to be in that moment. So I would be beaten up at school for being late, and nobody ever questioned why I was late, because maybe they assumed late coming is because you just wanted to be late. I don't know. But yeah, those are the things that I went through as a child. And we moved. So at some point, because of the dynamics at home, plus I was doing, I was about to go to high school. So my mom had to find us a shack in PE. That's where we stayed in PE. And even then, she found us that place and we stayed. The struggle was out of this world. It was crazy. So I don't know how all of that made Mama feel, and knowing very well that all responsibilities of the household were laid on my shoulders, and I had to take care of my brothers throughout their milestones. I had to, yeah, I had to be the one who grows up as quick as possible, the one who has to show up for the family, the one who has to change the story. Like I had to be the man of the house, if I can put it that way, because Umama is here with Unokolo. She can't work and she's only dependent on her social grant. That's the only way that she was living at that time. And So I needed to grow up quick. And we're here now. We are in Joburg. So remember us on our previous episode, I mentioned that. So we moved. I moved here to Joburg, and then we arrived, and then now she started getting her seizures, and yeah, she started getting her seizures, and one of them that was really hard. It was a back to back. I don't know what was happening that day. Took her to the hospital. The first one took her to the hospital, but she didn't get admitted. The second one that she had, the back-to-back one, took took her to the hospital, and then she got admitted for, I think it was 3 days that she spent in the hospital there, 3 or 5 days, I can't remember. She stayed there, and I had to do the back and forth. They kept on visiting her. So the reason why I'm pointing out Goti, this is not the first time I'm doing this. It is because a lot of times we go through a training moment, but we don't understand when it's happening that we are being trained for what is going to come. Because had I not been trained to take care of Nokolo as a child, that means I would crumble right now, or I would perish. The reason why um, I'm still standing, or I'm able to make it look so easy, hard as it is, or I don't walk around looking like my problems, it is because I went through the training season. And I'm not saying let us normalize the struggles. No, we shouldn't normalize struggles. We shouldn't normalize making children deputy parents. We should not normalize any of that. But there are situations in our lives where life calls for that, and you have no other option, right? You have no other option but to step in. And imagine if I didn't step in for Unokolo, so who was going to be there for her? What was going to happen to her? So I mentioned that to highlight that sometimes training season happens in our lives, but when it's happening, it feels like we are being punished. Because I remember very well there were times where I used to think I can't even play with other kids. I can't go anywhere. I cannot do this. I cannot do that. People who went to Seven Fountain School with me know that the only time they saw me was at school, and then home, school, home, or if I have a game, the game. All other activities that were happening outside school, you would never find me because I was a caregiver. Right now, as an adult, my friends even know you don't get me anywhere. It is home, work, gym if I have to gym, but all other activities, I don't know how many times people have asked, let's go have lunch, let's just some nice thing, but I can't because I never get time to do any of those things because my life is fully devoted into the caregiving journey. That is why it's so important to support the caregiver that is next to you, because there are so many unseen sacrifices that are made on a daily basis. And there are so many women who are like my mother, who are in a situation that my mother was in, where they have this child with special needs, and now they can't provide for other children, or their lives are placed on hold. There are women who got degrees, and then they thought to themselves that, or parents, let me say parents, because this does not only affect women, it also affects men. So somebody thought, okay, I'm gonna go study, be this and that, and then they get pregnant, and boom, a child with special needs. What happens then? That changes the direction that you thought your life was going to take, because everything yempilo yakho has to accommodate this child forever. And it's much better when you, or it's understandable when you have a child, a normal child, you know that okay, they are going to reach certain milestones, and then there's going to come a point where they don't need me. But what happens when this child that you have brought into this world needs you for as long as they live? What do you do? How do you navigate life? Especially if you don't even have a support structure, what do you do? So those are the things that we never spoke about at home. Those are the issues that were never mentioned. The only thing that I knew was that I need to step up. I need to take off this. I need to take off that because my mother cannot. And we didn't feel neglected. I think that's one thing I really appreciate. Ukuthi we didn't feel neglected, but the responsibilities were placed on my head at a very young age. So it's not easy. Remember what I said? Your choice doesn't mean that, or making a choice doesn't mean that the choice is easy. It is hard, but you are choosing and you are willing to pay the price, hard as it is. So, again, seizures, and then she got admitted, and we stayed in the hospital for that admission. I remember leaving the hospital around 9 just to go and check up on my kids at home. I told the nurse that I'm coming back. Can you please watch her? I just want to go and check my kids. It was just me and my brother in the hospital. It was such a sad realization. It was just a sad moment knowing it's only us, and we don't have anybody else around us. We don't have a family on speed dial that stays around where I can say I need your help with this and that. No, it was just us. And no matter how small my younger brother's portion is in this journey of caregiving, I really appreciate having him around, because without him so many things would crumble and fall. So it helps to have him also in this journey with me. So Nongola got admitted, stayed in the hospital, and I remember the doctor looked at me in the eyes and asked me, "How are you?" And like that, "How are you?" was the one that penetrates. And instead of answering, I just cried, because that's how hectic things were for me. And it was really hard, and it's still hard. It's not easy, but we are navigating this journey together. We are becoming stronger together day by day. So she gets these seizures, and then she was placed on meds, epilim, and we're still staying in a two-bedroom house. And I feel like, oh my word, this is so small for us, and I'm unable to afford a bigger apartment. Even if I were to find a bigger apartment, what am I gonna pay? What am I gonna use to pay for it? Because I don't have enough money. I am a single parent. I'm taking care of my kids, and all of this needs my attention. A person can do so much, right? But I kept on stretching myself, and I kept on stretching myself. I think those are some of the things that we don't talk about, the challenges that we go through as caregivers. So she stayed in the hospital, and then I would do the back and forth visiting times, home visit. And mind you, I have kids. I have a job, and it's a distance. Things here in Joburg, it's not like PE where going to town is like a few minutes. Like, places are so far apart, and there's crazy traffic. So this other time, so I would do that back and forth, and she didn't eat in the hospital. The nurses had that complaint that she doesn't want to eat. They tried everything, purities, whatever that you can think of, soft food for her, but she refused to eat. She would only eat food that comes home with me. So I had that responsibility to go make sure she's fed and cleaned. Then I come back, attend to my kids the following day, work. I was doing all of that. And thank God that I didn't look like my problems, but there are days where I looked like my problems. And okay, all right. Now it was the day of her discharge. Of her discharge. Right, that sounded so wrong. She was getting discharged. Okay, I was driving. I didn't know they were going to discharge her that day. And I got a call, and I remember shaking when my phone rang and I saw it's Helen Joseph Hospital. Remember the call that I got because of my mother when they were pronouncing her as no more. And but at least the news were, "Oh, we are releasing her. Is there anybody who can come and fetch her?" And then I said, "Okay, I will come." I was already on the freeway, and then I drove straight to the hospital. And then I only remembered when I got there, Ukotsi, I do not have clothes for her. Luckily, I was wearing layers. So I took off leggings underneath and then my t-shirt. I don't know whether it was a t-shirt or a track top. I took off those and then went to dress her up and came back with Umdaga Mama. And this doesn't mean that it was easy. It was so hard. And now Unokolo is on Epilim, but it didn't mean the seizures stopped immediately. They were still coming, but once in a while. And then now it was a new thing now that scared me. She is zoning out. She was zoning out, and I was like, yo, this is new now. So I went to the hospital with her again. I explained to them what's happening, and then they told me, no, it's still a seizure, but you don't see it on the outside. I don't know how to explain that in the medical terms. Medical people will do the job. So said it's still a seizure, and then now that worried me because what happens when I'm not looking or when I'm at work? So I tried to find placement for her. I got recommendations from people and called so many placement places, and they kept on rejecting, and others were full, others we don't take people with CP, others are private. I can afford them. And until I made up my mind and told myself that you know what, if God wanted me to carry Unokolo, I will carry him. And I believe that He would not give me something that will break me. He won't. He knows that I will be able to. It won't be easy, but He knows that I'm capable. I made that decision and I stopped looking for placement. Recently, I got a call that, hey, we found a placement. I was at the gym. And then I come out of the session, they're like, we found a space for her. Can you bring her to the hospital now? I'm like, now? What? Wait. And it's not that we're giving away an object, we're giving away a human being. And then I remember crying that day because they said to me I need to get back to them before 11 o'clock. And when I got back to them, I was like, unfortunately, I'm going to have to decline because, yeah, I found plan B, and plan B is me. It has always been me. Plan A, plan B is me. And then they said, are you sure? I said, yeah, I'm sure. So you can give the space to somebody else who really needs it. So those are the sacrifices that come with the journey of caregiving, and me making that decision or that choice to stay with her regardless does not mean I am free from challenges or everything is easy. It is still very hard. And so in my closing segment, I don't want to make this more lengthy. I just want to encourage us to show up for others. I want us to support the caregivers. You know your friend has a child with special needs. You know your family members who have kids with special needs. Show up for them. Caregiving is not about, we don't want you to fix everything. Sometimes we want somebody to listen. Sometimes we want somebody to be present, to be there for you, or somebody who understands the struggles that you are going through. Relieve them if you have to, even if it's for the day, just for them to get fresh air and then come back again and continue. Them being away for maybe an hour or 1.5 hours doesn't mean that they are checking out. They are going to fill themselves up and come back to the caregiving journey. This journey can be so lonely. And I grew up without friends, people who know me from the time we were in Seven Fountain. I didn't have friends because I was this weird child that had to take care of her sister, but nobody knew that's what I was doing. And my socializing skills suck even up to today. And even now that I'm an adult, it's so lonely. My life is so lonely. The other day I was saying, you can't even trust me. You can't even ask me to go on a date or to go on a girl's lunch or whatever. I would probably be late, firstly, because there are so many things that happen that are unpredictable in this caregiving journey. I remember this other time I was on my way to work, and as I was leaving, I could hear because I don't know how, I can hear when she's having a seizure. I could hear something was happening in her room, and then I quickly went there, and then I helped her. And I showed up at work being that mess, but I didn't allow that to overwhelm me or so even now, I don't know how many lunches I owe people because I don't get time to do that. So gym, at least I go for my mental states just to stay sharp. Anyway, coming to an end of this episode, me sharing my life and you listening to me, and thank you so much for your presence, and I really appreciate you and I love you so much.